Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Gabriella and I am a content creator based in New York City, and today I am going to go over my apartment hunt process, some tips that I have, and just showing all of you the 4 apartments that I looked at this past week. So just for a little bit of a context here, sounds of New York. So just a little context here. I have been living in this apartment for the last 2 years, and although I absolutely love it, it is getting a little bit small for my husband and I. We both live in a 300 square foot studio apartment, and even though it is so gorgeous, it's fully renovated and our landlord is great and our location is amazing, we're both just outgrowing the space and we're really looking for a new apartment that has lots of sunlight but just a bigger space in general. So for our apartment search, we've been looking at 1-bedroom apartments. So we're definitely sad to say goodbye to our current apartment. I mean, it's great. I'm even more excited for this new apartment that we found, and we actually just signed the lease yesterday. And I'm so excited to get the keys next week. I'll do an empty apartment tour for all of you as well, so stay tuned for that. Before I get started on everything about the new apartment, I want to talk about the New York City apartment hunting process. What we were looking for our next apartment, we wanted to have some type of a direction, so that when we're looking at apartments, we had a little bit more clarity and we knew exactly what apartment fit our bill and what didn't. So we had 3 different lists going on. We had a list that was basically our must-have list. So these are basically our non-negotiables. If the apartment that we're looking at does not have any of these at all, then it's an absolute no for us. So our must-have list was basically a 1-bedroom, and then we wanted to have natural light as well because our current apartment, there's so much light coming in, as you can tell. It's south facing, and so we wanted an apartment that was anything but north facing, because when you're north facing, you get 0 sunlight at all. Our next must-have was having a laundry either in unit or having it in the building. So right now we have laundry in our unit, which is really, really nice. But we were being realistic because, you know, not every apartment building would have a laundry in unit. It's actually a huge luxury to have that in New York City. So we were being realistic, and for us, we're like, as long as it's in the building, then that's fine. Okay, so our second list, it's called the nice to have list. So these are basically, you know, a list of things that would be nice. It's not a huge factor in our decision-making process, but it's still something that would be an extra touch. So the first one is new appliances. So again, our current apartment, do you hear that dog? Okay, so nice to have. So again, appliances. So our current apartment, we have fresh new appliances. It was renovated about 2 years ago. So we're very much so spoiled with all of our kitchen appliances. Our bathroom is also very, very well renovated as well. It would be really nice to have, you know, the same level of new, fresh appliances in our future apartment, but it wasn't a deal breaker. Next thing on the nice to have list was an elevator. So a lot of apartments in New York are walk-up, so there's no elevator in the building. Our current apartment is a walk-up, and it's a 3rd floor walk-up, and it's not bad, honestly, but having an elevator would be really nice. Again, doorman is also another item that was on the nice to have list because we've just never had that before living in New York. So, and then another one was that the building allowed pets. So this one was actually, we're kind of on the fence of moving this to the must have list versus the nice to have list, but basically we don't have any pets right now, but we have been talking about potentially adopting a dog in the near future. By near future, I mean probably in the next year or 2. I don't know. We're still deciding one thing at a time. You know, ideally we would want to move into an apartment building that allowed both cats and dogs. Next up on the nice to have is to still be on a quiet street. So I'm sure you can hear all the background noise. This is actually not that bad. To be honest, our street is relatively quiet. I feel like I'm just filming during an hour where there's just like a lot of noise happening outside. But having a nice quiet street is a plus because for me, I film a lot of content at home, and if I'm speaking directly to the camera like I am now, I would prefer if there was just no background noise. So having a quiet street was definitely something to have on the nice to have list. Okay, last but not least on our nice to have list is dishwasher. So all of our apartments, while we've been living in New York, have never had a dishwasher before. We both don't mind washing the dishes by hand, but it would be nice again to have a dishwasher in our apartment. Okay, and then the third list, it was just called like an extra list. It was just something that is not a deal breaker at all. It's just something that would be like a cherry on top, and that is having building amenities. So having like a gym, a pool, a storage unit, just like everything that you can imagine that a luxury building has. That was definitely a cherry on top for us, but you know, we're just being realistic here. So now that you know our 3 list, I am excited to show all of you the 4 apartments that I looked at. Just for reference, our budget was $3,100 per month, but we were determined to find something that was at that budget, and we did. So I'm excited to finally show you all the 4 apartments that we took a look at. And I'm not gonna tell you which apartment we chose just yet. I'm actually interested to see which apartment you think we went with. So comment down below with the apartment that you think we went with. So all 4 of these apartments, they were all in the same neighborhood that I'm in right now, but I will tell you it is all in Manhattan. Okay, so apartment number 1. So apartment number 1, I immediately fell in love with. This was definitely a gem. This apartment went for $3,100, so it was at our max, you know, budget cap, but it was so nice. I mean, I don't know if the video does it justice or anything, but first of all, it's at a great location. It's literally around the corner from, you know, the subway line. It's huge. It's a true 1-bedroom. I think a family used to live there because when I saw the photos on Street Easy, I saw like strollers and just like baby items. Great light. It was south facing. There was an elevator in the building. There was enough space for like a dining area. The bedroom was also massive. I feel like the bedroom was like the size of our current apartment. I don't know. You could definitely fit like a king size bed. This apartment was also on the top floor. So the only cons about this apartment was that the hallways in the building was a little bit dingy. I remember when I got out of the elevator and I stepped onto the hallway, I was like, whoa, this is like a little creepy, but it was just basically like super dark. The lights were flickering at the top. Like it's basically like a horror movie, like straight out of a horror movie, but like the carpet, like it was dirty for sure. But the apartment itself was very clean. So I don't know where the disconnect was, but yeah, that was like the main thing that I noticed. If you saw in the video, the kitchen, I really liked how the kitchen had its own room or its own space. Because we don't have that right now at our current apartment, but the appliances were a little bit outdated for sure. You probably tell in the video that, you know, it was definitely an older model of everything. When I got back home and I was like literally about to email the listing agent that I want to, you know, submit an application in, I just got a notification that that exact apartment just got into contract. So that apartment got snatched up immediately. With that information, you probably know that we ended up not going with that apartment. But yeah, that was definitely a very good steal for sure. Okay, so the second apartment. So the second apartment was $2,995 per month in terms of rent. And so this apartment, I just felt like it was a box, you know, like the space itself was fine. Like, you know, the living area was huge. You could definitely fit a sectional couch and, you know, a desk and a dining area. I also liked how the kitchen had the island situation going on, but the apartment was just facing like a wall. Like even though the building, it was at the back, so this apartment unit was at the back of the building, so it was facing another building, like literally, and there was just no light at all coming in. So even though it was south facing, there was just no natural light coming in at all. I actually went into the apartment and I immediately was just like, no, like you know when you just know in your gut, that was exactly what happened to me. But I will say, I really liked how high the ceilings were because that's also a huge plus. You know, again, the bathroom felt a little bit old as well. Like it just didn't really feel so updated, but I think the one thing that is a huge deal breaker for us is natural light, and this one had none. So yeah, so we left, like, we're just like, no, just not even gonna bother. So that brings me to apartment number 3. So this apartment was $2,990 per month. So not that big of a difference from the second apartment in terms of pricing. So this apartment, I viewed this apartment right after I viewed the second apartment. So I think when I was coming into this third apartment, I was like, all right, like I'm a little bit down from the second apartment that I was looking at because there was no light in there. So I think going into this third apartment, I was like really like in my mind trying to like envision the both of us living there and if it could work. This apartment, someone already lives there, but I did ask the listing agent if I could film with permission, and you know, she said yes. So for this apartment, I really like the space. I thought that the living area was super cozy. It's also a little bit hard to imagine an apartment with other people's furniture items and decor in there because you really want to like envision it how you would decorate it. So it was a little bit hard. I did like how the kitchen was renovated even though the counters were, you know, minimal. I also really liked how they had a dishwasher. That was a plus for sure. And also the kitchen was also like, you know, relatively like renovated as well. Like you could probably tell like new appliances, the fridge was new as well. So even though this apartment unit was at the back of the building, it was still south facing and the view was like a cute like courtyard. You could still see the sky, so it didn't feel like you were in a box entirely. The main con about this apartment though was that I felt a little stuffy when I was in there. I don't know if I was just running around the city that day and my body temperature was just hot to begin with, but I did feel like there wasn't much of an air circulation and I did feel like it was a little bit dusty. The building itself also felt a little bit dingy, like it wasn't super clean. Even though it was a walk-up, which I don't mind, the stairs were definitely on a bit of an incline, so I can imagine myself getting really tired after like a night out and trying to climb those stairs to go back home. So this apartment I was actually really on the fence about. When I got back home, I was just showing the video to my husband and we were like talking about it if we want to submit an application in. And I think in the back of my head, I just knew that this was not the apartment for us and that I should keep looking. And my husband agreed. He was like, I feel like this apartment is just not the one. Even though we could make it work, it didn't feel right. We weren't overjoyed about submitting an application just yet. So we decided that we were not going to. Okay, which brings me to the fourth apartment. I know I asked you guys to guess which apartment we decided to move forward with, but I feel like it's a little bit like, but I feel like it's a little obvious at this point. Anyways, I'll still show you the fourth apartment. So this fourth apartment, the rent was $3,050. So pros, huge living space, and it just felt so cozy. We could definitely fit, you know, a sectional couch, which we want to get. We could definitely fit a dining table that fits 6 people. Lots of space for us to work with. And of course, you know, we could easily fit Nick's desk for when he works from home. I could probably get a desk somewhere in the apartment as well, or I could work at the dining table like I have been for the last 2 years. Another pro about this apartment was the fake fireplace. So that fireplace was so cute. It's like, I feel like it's just such a statement piece and it just brings like a really cozy aesthetic to the apartment. And I really like the exposed brick as well. I've never had that type of apartment since living in New York, and I feel like it's just something that gives a lot of character to the apartment. And then another pro was the sunlight. So there was so much natural light to the apartment. When we went inside the apartment, it was actually a pretty gloomy day and no lights were on, but it was still flooded with so much natural light, and it's south facing as well, which is a huge added plus. The ceilings were also very high as well, so overall the apartment felt very airy and open and very clean as well. Another thing about this apartment that we loved was the kitchen area. So I do really like that island situation because I think it's great for hosting. I also cook a lot, and so all of the extra counter space is great for me. And yeah, so I really loved the kitchen. The appliances were also relatively new as well. So the only main cons about this apartment was that the bedroom was a little tight. I will say that. It could definitely like only fit a bed. Thankfully there's a closet in there, but you know, this was definitely a case where we're like, you know what? Like, yes, the bedroom is small. However, we really don't spend that much time in the bedroom anyways because we both work from home. The living space, like the main family area, is the most important for us because that's where we spend probably like 95% of our day, to be honest. I know that we could definitely make it work and we'd make it super cozy and super chic. And yeah, it was just one of those cases where it was like, you know, you just gotta like pick your battles because here in New York, as most of you probably know, typically you won't get every single thing that you hope for in an apartment, depending on what budget you have. We felt like the budget that we had in mind, plus the crazy real estate market that's happening right now in New York, this apartment was actually not bad at all, especially with the living area like that. I feel like the video doesn't do it justice, but yeah, when I stepped in, I immediately knew, like I was like, wow, like we could definitely make it work for sure. So another con about this apartment was that it is a 4th floor walk up, but I will say though, it was actually not that bad. When I was walking up the stairs are not too much on an incline, and the steps itself were pretty short, so I didn't feel like I was out of breath by the time I reached the 4th floor. So those were the 4 apartments that we viewed, and yeah, I feel like you probably know which apartment we went with by now, but still, guess away with the comments down below on which apartment you think we went with. So now that you've seen all of the apartments, I thought it'd be helpful if I just share a few tips in terms of moving in New York or moving around New York. That would hopefully be helpful if you're in the same situation as I am. Okay, so the first thing that I would definitely suggest is do something similar to what I did, which is write down a list of your non-negotiables. So the 3 lists that I had was must have, nice to have, and extras. I think it'll be important if you, or you know, if someone who you're living with, if all of you just write down exactly what are your deal breakers, what are some, you know, nice to have items, and then just extras, which is like the cherry on top. I found that this was very helpful for me, especially when I was touring apartments, because it at least gives you an idea of like, okay, like if it doesn't have X, Y, and Z, then it's an absolute no for me. And then I'll cross that apartment off of my list. It definitely helps in terms of like providing clarity and some direction as well. So my second advice that I would give is to have all of your documents ready before you tour apartments. So because the New York market, apartments just go by so quickly. They get snatched up immediately. I learned that the very first time when I was touring. If you see an apartment and you're ready to apply, that you have all of your documents ready on your computer that you can immediately send in your application with. All right, so my third tip is a little bit similar, but it's to act fast. So just like the first apartment that I viewed, an hour after I viewed the apartment, it immediately got snatched. And that was definitely very upsetting, but you know, you gotta act fast for sure. Obviously, don't make any impulsive decisions, but if you do see an apartment where you feel in your gut where you're like, you know what, this is probably the one, and especially if it's like a good deal as well, act fast. I mean, you gotta just go right into it. Okay, so that is about it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know how hard the process is in terms of apartment hunting is in New York. It's definitely stressful. Everyone's out there like trying to fight for the best apartment. It's definitely a tough process, but once you find the apartment that you really like and that you got approved for, it's really one of the best feelings ever, because I don't know, for me, I get really excited about a new space and just thinking about all the ways I'm gonna decorate it and what the new aesthetic of the apartment is going to be. I wish all of you the best of luck if you're going through the apartment searching process right now. You know, obviously if you have any questions, make sure that you comment it down below and I'll try my best to answer it from the best of my abilities. But aside from that, I will see you all in the next video. I'm getting my keys next week, so I plan on doing an empty apartment tour video, and you'll probably know which apartment I ended up getting. But I'm so excited to share with all of you my new apartment, and also all the moving vlogs will be coming soon as well. Well, till then, make sure you subscribe to my channel so you can join me as I move to my new apartment, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.